Now I am going to call this meeting to order. Calling the special meeting that I called for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Special Township Board meeting at 6:30 in accordance with Section 80-10B of the Illinois Township Code. It was called by me. And this meeting is conducted by video, audio, and live stream because of the current disaster related to COVID-19. And everybody has been able to connect to get the password to log in for public participation, as evidenced by the fact we've got one. Where'd he go? He's here somewhere. There he is, Earl. And so with that, I would ask to call this meeting to order and everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pete, thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Amen. Okay, so little ground rules. We've discussed this ad nauseum. So everybody's gonna get a chance to talk. And
We're taking roll call?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The Clerk Lamas, can you take the roll, please?
Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak, Assessor Moylan Cry. It's here. She's on mute.
I see her here, but she's.
You can unmute yourself, Susan. Clerk Giolama is here. Supervisor Marask.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee McKenzie.
Here.
Trustee Carabota. I think we lost him. He is here.
No, he's there. Dave.
It'll be noted he is here, and Trustee Sweeney.
Here.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So as I was saying, we're gonna have a little ground rules. Everybody's gonna get to talk at least once. We've debated this since July. First of all, at this current time, and I'll come back to it, because this is an issue of big importance. Is there any public participation, Earl? No, he doesn't want to okay, he has nothing that he wants to say. All right, then we will move on to the one and only item on this agenda, which is the compensation and vote on elected officials' compensation for the next 4-year term. All right, this is, so I'm going to start and I'm going to make a motion to pass Resolution 2020-7 with a few amendments. All right. And my amendments are as follows. To strike the IMRF. All right. So that is one amendment. And
Can you point out where that is?
it's in each
You're talking about the last sentence of
of each
number 3,
person's
second page
position.
3.
Yeah, each person's position.
Okay, so that would be
Where?
in the page 3, number 3, it says, in addition to the above compensation, Maine Township elected officials shall receive benefits allowable membership in and association with the IMRF in Illinois Municipal retirement fund, provided that the town board of trustees has designated such an office and official as eligible pursuant to the rules and regulations of the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. So are you saying strike that whole paragraph out?
Yes, with respect to the, yes, I am.
What do you mean with respect? Will you?
With respect to that, why does it happen all the time? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I am not proposing for the next term elected officials to participate in IMRF. My other amendment.
Laura, just one question on the IMRF. You know, we have a schedule with IMRF where we designate what positions are eligible. Have we done that previously? Just because if there are positions that are eligible, that you do that separately with a separate IMRF resolution.
So, Kurt, yeah, we had the electors had elected us to IMRF. Now, our previous resolutions had always included IMRF pursuant to our then lawyer advice, and also Lisa Madigan's binding opinion that it was considered compensation. If that should be something separate.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that they're consistent because there is a separate form that you pass for each position for IMRF. So just to make sure that we don't have conflicting resolutions on the positions, that's all.
Right, but I agree, I understand, but I'm saying for compensation, and the other issue, going forward, are you talking about the IMRF litigation? Like what other?
Just if the board, what positions the board is deemed as requiring the hours that make them eligible for IMRF.
So those positions though have always, that's been consistent since 1976. So that is supervisor, highway commissioner, assessor.
That's all. I just wanted to make sure that we're consistent what IMRF is going to have on file for what positions we deem eligible or deem are going to meet that threshold is going to be consistent with that. That's the only thing I just wanted to make sure.
You have to have a threshold of work. But that's not even it. It was just as part of compensation. Like we always were taught that it had to be listed. And
that's fine. I'm just trying to make sure that there's no discrepancy between the two. That's the only issue I was raising.
Many people have issues with part-time elected officials getting IMRF. So I've listened to those people. I've never been in it. Even though I've worked the required hours, but don't fault anybody who is. But it doesn't really, So I think we're all on board with what positions there were.
Good. That's all. I just wanted to make sure there was no inconsistency. That's it.
I do think there is an inconsistency because we as a board voted no to IMRF certification for.
I'm taking it out.
What was that?
I'm taking out IMRF.
But I'm trying to answer Kurt's question.
Oh, okay.
The board voted no, so that is not the same as since 1966.
76.
All those positions were IMRF certified. So it's not since 1966. The board.
76.
And there litigation on this.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay. It sounds like this is making it consistent. So that's all I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
but I'm not making it consistent with the litigation. That's not my purpose. My purpose has nothing to do with that at all. You know, that litigation is separate. It has nothing to do with that. One has to keep in mind that we are voting for the next group of people, period. End of story.
So what is,
I can't believe you guys want me to put it back in. I
No,
didn't think so.
Claire is our IMRF agent, and she was just trying to specify that we had already
Right.
made a decision, and that supersedes what happened in 1976. So I appreciate,
Never said
saying-
anything that it didn't. I took it out.
but she was answering to Kurt.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Trying
you
to
for
clarify.
clarifying Claire's position. I think I understood Claire's position. My other amendment is that where the contribution it is paragraph, it's for everybody. It's in every position's paragraph. So 10% is the max that can be contributed under the ACA.
The healthcare.
To the healthcare. However, we have an additional 15 as my resolution currently stands. I'm amending my resolution to add that to be an additional 25. So to make that a total of 35. In other words, 25% of whatever the person's salary is, or of the premium would be paid. So those are my two amendments, and with that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Just for
Having a
clarification,
motion and a second, we are now open to discussion.
just so that I understand, because I don't think I heard it right. Did you say to add 25% more? I'm trying to find the paragraph now.
It's with everybody's paragraph.
look
So
at page
every
1, Claire, at the
position-
bottom, the last paragraph on page 1. For
Uh-huh.
example, on the supervisor's salary of 35,000, so below that, it says 10% is, entitled to participate in a health insurance program at the rate of 10% of his or her total insurance premium per month, the equivalent of the ACA maximum contribution. And then I think what I hear you saying, Laura, is an additional 25% shall be paid by
Oh.
the supervisor.
So instead of 15%, you're
It's
making it
25.
25%.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
which brings the total to 35%.
Correct.
Right.
That is, but it's it goes to different places. 10% goes to Blue Cross. The 25% goes back into the township general fund. And specifically, even though it's not stated, it goes into the salary line item. So, I think, that's a very helpful thing. Now
And that, can you explain that? How does it go back into the salary line item? Is that what you said? I mean,
we pay out of our paycheck. Kelly takes out, well, as it stands now, Kelly takes out of mine and Dave's paychecks. 10% goes off the top to Blue Cross, but that's like pre-tax. And then post-tax, I believe it is, an additional, and Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but an additional 15% gets paid back into the township.
Currently, that's correct,
Town
yes.
fund.
Gotcha.
Where we've been putting it is the salary line item.
I got you. Okay.
So as to, now I would like
So you mean
to,
accounted for,
I'm sorry.
it's being accounted. It's
It's
being accounted for.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Um,
And so what you're saying is, I mean, because that's so it's 25% right now, total contribution by elected officials. And your proposal would be an increase to 35% contribution from the elected officials that choose to take the benefit.
no, 40. I mean, 10% to,
No, I thought you said 25% plus 10%, 35%.
oh, that's, yeah, 35%.
And one is
Right.
pre-tax and one is post-tax.
I believe. And Dave, again, you can
that's
correct me if I'm wrong, but I
No,
do
that's right. I
believe.
know that's right.
Okay. And so the post-tax is actually, yeah. So I'm gonna make a few comments about this. Actually, you know what? I'll let everybody else go first, and then I can comment because well, I'm sorry. I'm gonna make some comments and then reserve some comments. So, what I did was, and I sent you 29 Cook County townships. And so, you know, we can quibble with various things here and there, but we are not, you know, high, we are not lowest. We're actually, for what we do, in a very good position. Now, also, I have to point out that I know there's another resolution that will get discussed. However, I need to point out that in the 4 years that the salaries were lowered previously by 25%, back in 2000 and, God, am I old?
16.
Thank you. Back in 2016. It did not decrease the tax burden or tax anything for our residents at all. So it doesn't, I think what is helpful is when we increase more. That's what I'm doing. I think it's a good idea towards health insurance because that gets an affirmative item back into the coffers. On the other hand, I will point out that, we did that. I guess my point is it's sort of a red herring to say that, reducing to the levels of what the other resolution wants to do will save taxpayers money. And that won't be the case, because it wasn't the case back for the last 4 years. It won't increase. I mean, there's many other things we do that have saved the taxpayers money. And so I will say I've been here 20 years and it has never changed from 1.4 for town fund, 1.6 GA, 1.8 highway. I might have highway and GA reversed, but it's still the same. It hasn't changed. It's still less than 2 cents on the dollar. Dana and I have figured out a preliminary levy. There won't be any increases. In fact, there'll be some there'll be some decreases. As much money as we've saved on COVID, as you guys know, we've had to spend money. We do assume we'll get that back, right? For, including whatever was counted towards salary. Not elected officials. I mean, I'm talking about FEMA and the Cook County grant. I also want to point out that I think it's a better comparison to look at 29 townships rather than 14 or 18. And they're all in Cook County. And so when you do that, you will see that the average is much higher than what had been discussed in the other resolution. So I think that it's a good compromise between competing resolutions, if you will. And I think you do have to understand that I think the other resolution from previous discussions was discussed with an eye towards having it be a city manager form of government. The problem is that we aren't a city manager form of government, and nobody is willing, at least hasn't been willing, on our current board. I have no idea what the next board may look like, but that requires giving raises to either giving raises to current people or getting more people, because, for example, a city manager in Des Plaines makes almost $200,000. The city manager in Park Ridge makes 250, I believe. So I'm not sure, like, Susan means it that we want to move to a city manager form of government. Maybe she does. I don't know. I'm not speaking for her. But if you do, you then do have to get, like right now, I've combined the jobs, for example, of receptionist and food pantry coordinator. And it's working, and gotten, I think everybody can agree it's the fat's been trimmed, whatever fat there is has been trimmed. So those are my preliminary words, and anybody else?
I think that's a great compromise.
Wait, who, Trustee Jones?
Yeah, I think that's a great compromise.
Thank you. I thought it was. I mean, I'm really trying to work with everybody, and also to make it so that whoever runs, you got to understand it's like in charge of a lot, and we may have to get into what these jobs actually do. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm assuming you guys all know what they do, but and how much different they are than for example, being the mayor of Park Ridge, which I don't denigrate at all. He's a friend of mine, know him very well, but it's just a different thing because the city manager, for example, let's use Park Ridge, runs the city, but he also gets over 200,000 house, low interest, so there you can't really compare those things. We are in charge of 5 towns in terms of that they can use our services along with their own services. And they can use our food pantry. But we're also in charge of the largest amount of unincorporated people.
And the assessor's office.
Oh, and absolutely, I was getting to that, but that was in my next group of remarks. So in the other resolution, there was, like I think it was a 9,000 lowering of supervisor, but there's like, no, I don't know what the basis for that is. There is a hang on, there's a, like 6,000 lowering of assessor.
No, 11,000. 11,000.
Sorry. And, now originally there had been a huge lowering of highway commissioner. But then it was raised back up again. But so what has stayed the same is the trustees. And I, having been one, fully advocate for that. The clerk.
No, the trustees were lowered a little bit also.
Oh, yes,
$900.
I apologize. Yes, because they are currently, and I think every trustee would understand that it's not one meeting a month.
Oh, do we?
I'm sorry?
I said, oh, do we? Yes.
Right. So I know that it may, like, on the surface have seemed like that, but no, it's not. And so, just trustee Sweeney, you had something.
So yeah, I'm just going to go through, and I'd appreciate if I could talk through this uninterrupted and then have discussion about my comments later. So the current resolution that you just presented, with the exception of the amendments that you just made, Supervisor Marask, is identical to what, just for the sake of our viewing audience and people that are looking, to what was presented, as you had mentioned, in 2017 to 21, and salaries had stayed the same. So that being said, one of the things that we did was we looked at the average, and Dana had provided us all the information on 12 neighboring Cook County townships and what those salaries were. So you had referenced and asked what the salaries were that I based that new resolution. So I just for clarification, I presented the last several meetings a counter resolution that would take salaries down, that would eliminate healthcare and IMRF pension. So the salaries as they compare, for example, with the different positions, on average, where Maine Township's supervisor position was $35,369. The Cook County average of those 12 Cook County townships that are neighboring to us, and now not some of the other outliers that were referenced in the 29 that were included. The average was for the supervisor position was $26,004 versus $35,369. For the clerk's position, Maine Townships was $21,845, and the Cook County average is $20,493. For the assessor position, Maine's assessor $31,835 versus $22,656. For the highway commissioner, $73,721 versus the Cook County average, which was $32,643. And for the trustees, $5,970 versus the county average of $5,075, which is why.
Susan, what was the highway commissioner average again? I missed that. That number.
32,643.
And the trustees were
5,075.
okay.
So that was the basis upon which, in answer to your question about that, that I proposed that resolution.
I'm sorry.
So,
if I can just, I didn't have a question. I mean, Dave asked you a question, so I'm assuming it's okay if I do.
I just wanted to get through this if I can.
Well,
interruption.
I know, that's what I thought.
Well, he's still here. He wanted me to repeat something.
But Dana, just to clarify, Dana, this is at the beginning. That's all.
Sorry, Susan.
Oh, that's
I just wanted a number. I just wanted a number repeated. I didn't want to open up a banter.
No, I just want to clarify that that's all that got back to her, but we literally went to the BGA. So.
Okay, so again, what I did was those were 12 neighboring townships, And the other salary townships that were included in what the current resolution that Supervisor Marask just presented were Cook County township salaries for 29 different townships. Some of them were huge outliers to the point where they paid 600% more than what we pay. I'll give you an example of one, and I don't want to belabor this and go into this because I want to cover what I have to cover, but where our supervisor position is 35,369, they've got supervisor positions of 251,901, provisos, and that's Thornton, proviso 65,000, Stickney's 91,000, and Calumet 71,000. So those are nowhere near where we live. They're very far south, and they are paying astronomical amounts that I don't think, and I can't even, as you said, Supervisor Morass, we've been paying the same amount for decades. Why would we want to, consider averaging these that are way, way out of line from what we're accustomed to around here? The next part, so then regarding healthcare, it's obviously that the resolution presented that was just discussed, though, I can appreciate that there was an amendment made which increases the contribution. I just want to make clear that the resolution, which I hope I get to read at some point, but that I had presented, and it's also online and can be viewed in past meetings and in the board packets. So for those that want to see it, is significantly more expensive because what I had proposed is that we allow for participation in the healthcare plan, but not to have a township contribution to that healthcare plan. And then the third piece, which you did, comment on IMRF and your amendment to that, Supervisor Marask, and what you just presented, but I specifically put wording into the resolution that I presented saying that there would be no IMRF, so that it would codify what we previously took in a board vote. And it would make it clear that no position in the future would be eligible for IMRF going forward, as opposed to being silent, which is what your current resolution would be.
Wait, I'm sorry, it is not silent. It is not.
Well, we struck the paragraph, so it didn't add anything in specifying, as mine did, to say that there's no IMRF.
But it wouldn't be forever, it would just be for 4 years.
Right, you can't get compensation for something you don't list, so clearly it does. I just have to clarify that. Go on.
Okay, well, it answered, I thought putting a sentence in there would make it clear to what Kurt, our lawyer, had just referenced, to be clear and codify what our previous decision was, so that there's no confusion that there's eligibility for it, because we're in court right now over this issue anyway, and I think giving clarity makes a lot of sense going forward as to what our compensation is, so that it would not be included in the proposal and the resolution that I presented. So I want to just give an example. So included in my resolution regarding the healthcare coverage. So for example, an elected official on a family healthcare plan, the premium cost is approximately $36,000 a year. So under the current plan, not the one currently proposed by Supervisor Marask, but the one that we're on now, an elected official pays 10% of the premium plus another 15% to participate in the plan. So that 25% of 36,000 is about 9,000, which leaves the township responsible for, the difference between that, which is $27,000. So that's what we would pick up or have been picking up under a family plan for the township for elected officials. Why I proposed, a change is that I just personally have been of the belief that I do believe it is a city manager, or should be a city manager's type of government, style of government. When you reference Supervisor Marask that it's $200,000 more and we would have to pay a higher salary, the budget, as you also referenced, of the township versus what the city government is, we have about less than 2% of the tax dollars. That the city government represents about 11% of it, and they have much more responsibility for essential services versus most of which what we provide outside of general assistance is discretionary services that, well, I mean, I'm just talking about by statute, what we are mandated to pay. We make choices, and I'm just saying, I think it, I don't think you can equate, the budget that's, how many times more than what ours is, significantly more, and responsibilities that they have, of the city manager to be identical to that of, an administrator. And that's nothing to say that I'm not appreciative of this, the work and what's required of our administrator, because I think there's, a significant amount. So those are my points. I think the three pieces that I just wanted to, say is that what I'm proposing in my resolution is that the supervisor, rather than getting paid $35,369, would get paid $26,000. That the highway commissioner, rather than $73,721, would be $50,000. And I did increase that from what I previously said at
Yeah.
$35,000.
Yeah, why?
Because we had discussions about it. And even though the average was significantly lower, closer to that, less than the 35,000, the average was 32,000 for the Cook County average. I listened to what everybody said and the responsibilities that the highway commissioner has. And, I gave consideration to that, and I thought it made sense to raise that. So
Can I ask why you didn't give the same consideration
but
to
if I can finish,
the assessor's office?
I don't want to be interrupted. I'm going to finish. So that's why I proposed the 50,000 for the highway commissioner versus what's been proposed in Supervisor Marask resolution of 73,721. The town clerk, the clerk's current and proposed is under Supervisor Marask is 21,845, and because the average was so close to that, I kept that at 20,000. And the assessors 31,835, which is proposed by Supervisor Marask. I had recommended that be changed to 20,000 in my resolution, and the trustee's salary for 5,970 down to 5,000. So I know it's hard not having everything side by side. I'd be happy to do a screen share of my resolution and show it or read it. But I'm recommending that we significantly reduce salaries, that we cut the healthcare, and that we specify the IMRF. And that's how I feel about this.
I'm gonna go next, and I just want to respond a couple things, and then I'll give everybody a turn. Averaging neighboring 18 doesn't make any sense. There's like no actual reason to do it. You have to look at the services that are offered. So for example, you could put Norwood Park in there, and Norwood Park doesn't have a food pantry. Or I think you have now Oak Park. Let's look at Oak Park in yours. Oak Park has an entire separate pay they get for being in a mental health board that is not counted in this. So it's really sort of like picking and choosing for no apparent really reason. And I understand at the time it was what Dana got back from her fellow administrators. However, since that time, we went to the BGA, which I think everybody would agree. And so I think the fairest is 29 townships. Now, you may laugh at Stickney or Thornton, but they have the closest services to us, as well as the amount of unincorporated people. And that is an important, very important part that I think is being left out of the apples to oranges. Neighboring has nothing to do with that. Like, I think Carrie Lynn said last time, you know, Chicago's our neighbor, but you wouldn't average Lori Lightfoot's salary with Mayor Dave. I mean, sorry, God bless Dave, with Mayor Maloney. Like, you just wouldn't do it.
I don't even
And
understand why you're looking at two mirrors. Like, we're not even looking at that, but okay.
no, I'm just saying, there was no, that's why I
Stay
wanted
on point.
all 29. I thought all 29 was the fairest way to go, because the original objection to zone 1, what Toy teaches us, was that it included DuPage and I think Will or
Lake.
Kane, and I got rid of those. These are 29 Cook County townships. But we're not doing 200 and whatever the heck it was. You know, that's not what's happening.
But that's,
Would you be willing, Laura, to go over the amendment that you have for the medical insurance again one more
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it.
I would seek to have the total amount be at 25% more plus 10, so 35% of the cost, whatever plan. Now, Trustee Sweeney assumes whoever is taking these positions is taking a family plan. And
No.
that's,
I gave
well,
it,
you quoted a
So
family.
would it be, it's 10% to Blue Cross, and it would be 20% then to the
No,
township?
25,
25 to the township, okay.
right, correct.
I just want to get the numbers in my head.
Right.
Thank you, Laura.
Correct. And also, I just want to point out, general assistance is not discretionary. It is like one of the
I
things.
specified that general assistance was an essential service. I specifically said that. That is not discretionary.
Okay, I won't argue with you. The tape will be the tape. So I don't think it's and you know, I don't have any problem you know, coming down on the highway commissioner to your amount to 50, or you know, but you know, it's too bad the highway commissioner's not here, but he's like, I don't, you know, that's why it's got to be the position. Now, there's one other thing I want to say. The decreases, you know, first of all, and you can't, again, think of it like this assessor, or I have lived through 3 assessors, two, I'm sorry, 2. And so the assessor's office is the single most used office at the township. And whether or not, I know it's been said in the past, oh, they don't assess, but they actually do get like, you know, all of the people. I mean, the numbers were unbelievable. And so it is truly the department, and certainly during COVID, that the food pantry, and now, you know, Pete, I'm gonna ask him to talk, you know, the passports bizarrely has picked up. I don't know where everybody's going, because frankly, I wouldn't be going anywhere, but, so I was in the spirit of compromise, and I, you know, meant to send you something about the IMRF. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like, oh, one other thing, you know, being allowed to be in the insurance is not compensation. So this is a compensation ordinance. And I think our lawyer would agree with this. So like what's paid is compensation. So being allowed to be in the plan at full cost, that's not compensation. So it can't be, it shouldn't be part of compensation. Like I'm saying on Trustee Sweeney's ordinance, that's just not compensation. As a matter of the definition of the word. And of Lisa Madigan's binding opinion. Trustee Jones.
So then, if it's not compensation, are you saying to take that part of Trustee Sweeney's proposal out?
Well,
Of
if we if hers was adopted, yeah, because it's not compensation.
Well, but I mean, it's part of a resolution. So are you saying that it shouldn't even be in the resolution?
Yes, because the resolution is a compensation resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So
then how would it look?
I don't know how Trustee Sweeney's would look. I know how. I mean,
what was acknowledged, and if I may I say something?
Sure.
Okay, the way my resolution read was the first part was section 1, and it addressed all of the salaries for the elected officials and specified what I had just gone over as the dollar amounts. And then section 2 said that the following township officials, in addition to the compensation outlined, will receive the following benefits.
It's not a benefit.
Benefits are defined as either being healthcare providing benefits. That's part of a compensation package. So are you saying, and I would defer to Kurt Asperuth, I would like your opinion, the way section 2 is written is not allowed because it addresses and specifies what those benefits are, which are saying that the officials may participate in the township's flexible spending plan at their own expense via payroll deduction, that they may participate in a retirement plan and life insurance and health insurance, but it's all at their own expense with no township contribution.
Right. That's not compensation.
And that they shall not participate in IMRF, and that in addition, they'll be covered for out-of-pocket expenses which are the business of the township. So that's part of what is defined or specified as a compensation plan is not being,
But you're not being compensated for anything.
You're not being compensated for anything.
Right, but we're defining what I'm making it clear what there is. There's some benefit.
No.
Benefit is compensation to participating in a healthcare plan.
It's not a benefit. It's a benefit. No, seriously, under the definition of compensation, that is an affirmative benefit. I mean, it's being paid. I mean, I totally agree that a township contribution is a benefit.
If officials are allowed to participate in a healthcare plan, you see that as no benefit whatsoever?
I absolutely do not. It is because you're not getting paid. It's no money. And Kurt, maybe you'd like to weigh in on this.
From a legal perspective, you can include it in the resolution if you want. It's up to the board here to specify how we'd like to have it in the resolution. It's not mandatory that you put it in there. It's not mandatory that you leave it out.
Right.
So if the board wants to include language in there, they can. Again, it's just basically specifying what the board would like.
Right.
But Kurt, is it a benefit under Lisa Madigan's opinion as to?
It is not calculated in the same way as overall compensation if there's not a payment, but there's no legal prohibition on specifying.
Oh, no, I
don't in this resolution. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that I agree. I mean, it's just sort of superfluous language, because, yeah, sure, they can spend their own money to do any of these things.
Well, I would think that we would want to be as clear as possible since
I
part of,
have no, if you want to leave it in, leave it
has
in, but I,
been- part of these statements have been the subject of litigation. So,
of
I
these
think
things.
yes. So
No,
I
I'm
think
not-
that-
I'm talking about this particular one.
IMRF.
No, I'm back on,
Well,
wait, I thought we were talking
all I'm
about,
saying is that it's best, I think, to be as clear and comprehensive as possible. There's
I just think that the
reason-
word benefit, it should be,
no reason to exclude it.
I guess my problem is it's not a benefit. I don't have any problem including it at all. And be as clear as possible. I don't think it's considered under the Attorney General as a benefit that, you know, we are responsible for putting the top earners on the front page of the website. And there would be nothing from that you would put on the front page of the website. That's all I was saying.
I think we're talking about two different things, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem specifying, you know, no IMRF. I think I did. I took it out. I'm not specifying anything to do with the legal case. That's not what I'm going to, you know, be proposing. That's already, you know, where it is. But I think it's not, obviously by removing it, people can't be in it. And I don't have any problem, Claire, with a sentence saying, you know, the previous positions that had been eligible for IMRF are not for the next 4 years or whatever the language on that. I don't. But my point was more to Susan's point that I don't also have a problem, you know, to make it, like you said, Claire, very specific. I just think we get into trouble if you call the insurance part a benefit. Call it whatever you want, but it's not a benefit. So we can just say it without using the word benefit.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Pete, what's your position?
Oh, no, I was hoping to, well, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll defer.
I
Go
didn't
ahead,
see your
Trustee
hand.
Garbota.
Trustee Garbota.
Looking this all over, and again, we've had several meetings on this, okay? The two areas that bothered me were the highway commissioner. It looks like we resolved it. So because it was a big battle, is it a full-time, part-time position? Why is the salary where it is? And I think we resolved it as far as I'm concerned, but I'm waiting on, of course, Trustee McKenzie opinion. But I think at 50,000, looks like Susan, it looks like that Susan proposed, looks like Laura, Supervisor Marask is going along with it. I would go along with it. That was one concern. The other concern I had was the trustee. I am a trustee, been a trustee for 4 years. The overall compensation at 5970 is a result of cuts that have taken place before I got here, right? The problem I'm seeing is that, and my math may be wrong, but we've participated in 73, if not 82 meetings up until now.
I
Now,
raised your salary.
all right, if you would divide that by the months that we're having, we are far, right now, it's supposed to be, you know, a meeting a month. We're way, way beyond that.
Way beyond.
And there's also awful lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of research. However, there's also been a lot of rebuilding and reformation of the township with the working of the board and the staff that's been extremely significant. It's been fantastic cost savings without a blink of loss of services to the community that we're required to provide under the statute, which is extremely, extremely commendable. So I have a question there about the township going down, but it's an issue of $970. It's not the end of the world if we brought it down to 5,000.
I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think the trustee salary should be reduced.
But that's, let me finish up. So what I'm saying is, I'm saying, ow, but you know, if we're cutting the highway commissioner and we're cutting these other salaries, the assessor, the clerk, the supervisor, maybe, you know, well, I'm saying under Susan's proposal, if that were the case, then I think it's only fair that, you know, the trustees that have been cut to a short haircut, maybe go down to a crew cut with this type of reduction. Then we get also the issue of the medical and those benefits. I think the increase to, as proposed by Supervisor Marask, I think that is a good compromise in that whoever's going to be a trustee in the future, and I'm talking about trustee's position, to deny them that opportunity, deny them that help and that benefit for all the time and effort that they're going to put in. On top of that, an additional $970 a year is going to be going toward that premium because we're cutting their salaries. So between the increase proposed now, an additional increase proposed by Supervisor Marask, and the additional cut that's proposed annually by Susan Sweeney, I think it's a good compromise position. So my thought right now would be a resolution that would incorporate the salaries as set forth by Trustee Sweeney, the benefits as set forth by Supervisor Marask, and the IMRF language as set forth by Susan Sweeney. That's how I think it should go.
Dave, your point is well taken. I think Trustee Sweeney, though, cut way, I mean, you know, I'd have, you know, there's like no reason. Okay, what do you, like, just let me ask you something. What is it you think the supervisor does?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into all that. I've been doing this now for several years. And I see what the supervisor does. I'm saying,
okay, let's compromise in the middle. I think it can be lived with. I said 35, right? What about 30? Why is it 26?
So I could go along with 30, but
And
I think it was average. It was average at 26,004.
But that's for 18 neighboring townships that there was no showing that. And I'm not blessed. I mean, Trustee Sweeney, Dana did a lot of work. I'm not commending that. I'm saying that when you look at and what you just said, how the employees have picked up this slack, you know.
And that's the employees. I agree. That's why we have that staff. We have all the expense of that staff. And the expense of the staff is quite significant. And the salaries of the staff are quite significant, but they also perform a very good service. So that leaves less required to be done in certain positions. If certain positions they want to do more, that's fine. But that's why we have staff, and that's why we delegate.
So my point, though, what I was going to say is at the end of the day, I still get every phone call, or whoever the supervisor, because it's not a city, you know, the supervisor is like, whoever it is, will get, you know, has to be on call on the weekend, will get every phone call, you know, with the COVID that's been going on this week, you know, and the scares at the township and the I mean, okay, so that's one thing. And I appreciate, Dave, I think you and I are on the same spirit of trying to work this out.
Oh.
Right. So
Susan, what did you think about the 30,000? Did you think you want to stick with?
I know why we came up with it, you know.
Do you want, is it something that could be tolerated?
you know, it's a possibility that we, can look at changing it a little bit, but I mean, you throw, when you average something and you throw in Thornton paying that salary of 251,000.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. I don't think we should consider those, and I didn't, in looking at my analysis, I didn't consider those at all. And I have personal reasons for that when it comes to credibility with those numbers and propriety of those numbers. But also because of location and what they do. I really don't think it should be considered.
Okay.
I didn't consider those in my
I
analysis.
didn't consider Thornton or Stickney, and my next thing would be that I think the clerk should be, and I don't think this is a terrible thing, 23,000, and Pete, you were about to speak.
Yeah, just a couple quick thoughts. Number one, I do feel there is some good compromise going on both ends, and it's nice to see that for a change. Secondly, I understand where some of the points are coming from with the further reductions in the salary. I would agree with Laura on the supervisor end of it. The supervisor, and I've seen it with my own eyes time and time again, definitely gets the brunt of the responsibility, the phone calls, the everything falls on their lap. So if there's not going to be a cut, I would say that's a position to do it in. I mean, I personally know how much time and energy I put into the position. None of us do this job because it gets us, makes us wealthy. We do it because we care about the people and we care about the township. That goes for the trustees, that goes for the rest of us as well. But, again, I'm certainly in the spirit of compromise, willing to, nobody's going to walk away happy, but everybody's going to walk away feeling they got a little bit of something. So I can live with that.
I was hoping to hear from Claire. Can we hear from Claire? Is it possible?
I'm sorry, let me just finish this one thing and then Claire. Susan, even under your averages, the assessor, you have it 22,656.
No,
No,
26,004.
she has it at 20.
26,004.
No.
20, I have it at 20.
No, I'm looking
Right.
at the list of
Her average,
your average.
Was
right.
22,656.
Yeah, so where did 20 come from?
For which
Right.
one again?
The assessor.
For the assessor.
The assessor is 22,856. So yeah, so
Right,
it's at
but Susan
20,000.
had it at 20.
We had talked about this because, as we know, and we've talked about it, you mentioned it already, Laura, but, Cook County does assessments. We don't assess in our,
Anything.
lack of a better word, satellite office in Maine Township. We don't assess. So we have an assessor's office. I understand that, but it's doing the work of the appeals.
No, actually, I gotta tell you, in the last 8 months, it's been doing the work of the actual assessor as well, because they can't, with COVID, they honestly can't go down to, there's no office.
No, there's
nobody
no
there.
assessing though. There's no assessing.
There's like no, but there's no people. We have people that a resident can go into and do their appeal, or when the time comes, file their assessment or the paperwork to continue the appeal, board of review. And I'm not speaking for Susie, I'm speaking for the position, really. And I think Dan Patlick would totally agree with me. I mean, we had a short, they all, in a spirit that I've never seen, all wrote a letter, I'm sure you all saw it, to support his reelection. All assessors everywhere. But we have such a great spirit of cooperation between, no matter who's at the assessor's office, between ours and really that has the most appointments. I mean, Dana, am I right? Because I know you, I mean, I don't, keep the appointment calendar. It's on the All Share. You're all welcome to look at it. It really, rather than an average, we should maybe look at a median. So, but in any event, Susan, going off your numbers, I mean, I just don't know where it went down. Like,
Would we be able to hear from Claire? I was wondering if we could
I'm
do that.
sorry, trustee Sweeney, Mackenzie.
No, I mean, I don't want to stop Susan from answering, but I mean, I'm sure that I would think that in the spirit of compromise, if we look at averages, that one can be fine tuned. But anyway, I was going to make a couple of comments, observations, or just let you know where my thinking is, because there have been comments, accusations, or what have you, saying things that I don't think are really correct. So just so that everybody is very aware, as for me, I have done my homework and my research, just like all of you. And I've looked at the 12 neighboring townships, the 29 outlying townships, all of the townships that I thought were most similar to ours. I've also made phone calls, talked to people that I think are expert, and I've made my own conclusions. And I will be voting based on my research, my views, and what I think is right for the township. Has nothing to do with any individual in any position. It has to do with the township and what I think is appropriate. You talk about the spirit of compromise, and I really do see that tonight, and I really do appreciate it by everybody. And I'm just sorry that our term is almost over, because this is the way it should have been all along. But one thing that I want to go back to, both Laura and Kim mentioned that it's a nice compromise. And I just want to be clear, because, I'm sometimes a numbers girl, which I'm trying not to be, but from what I see, all of the salaries that, Laura, your resolution proposes, that's status quo. So that's not a compromise.
I just lowered it.
I'm sorry?
I just lowered it
Okay, on the highway commissioner?
on everybody. Supervisor to 30.
Okay.
The clerk would be at 23. The trustees, I do think, you guys should get 5,009 or whoever. But if you want to cut proportionally, I guess you can do 5,000. But I think the amount of meetings you got to go to should be 5,960. Assessor, by even Susan's average is 23, and the highway commissioner 50. I literally just lowered it.
Okay, wait,
So,
so the
I
clerk,
mean, I would have to see these side by side, but so are you just matching the same salary?
No, Susan had.
hold on a second. Clerk is, your proposal was 21. When you said you lowered it to 23, that's raising it.
No, his
No,
current is
you
21,845.
said You said 20.
The clerk you have is 21,845, and you just said I lowered it to 23. Can you
Yeah, that's
explain
correct. It is 21,845. That's current salary.
that? Oh, Pete's picking up because that was kind of funny.
Raise.
I mean, I'm just laughing because
I raised Pete.
he raised it.
Well, also because I know that is well, I was looking at the full average and it's way on the low side. I mean, of all the townships, but it's way
The
on
average
the low
is
side.
20,493.
Of all, not 29 townships?
No, the one that Dana had done,
No, but that's
20,493.
but if you take out Thornton, take out Stickney, all right, your outliers, and you're still going to get, like, that's what I was doing. Like, you're still gonna, I'm gonna fight for Pete.
County Met and Proviso. I mean, Thornton's 600% of ours. So,
I'm not doing, I literally just said that.
What do you mean you
Alright,
literally said
Then
it?
I'm not including Thornton. Here's my point. The clerk's office consists of Pete and Viasia. Pete has been very responsive to listening to the board. Or the position of clerk has been very responsive to listening to the board's direction. We didn't, he didn't fill a full-time position that left.
Correct,
And
and that left and we didn't replace her.
we didn't replace her.
Okay, if I can comment on that, we also used to do like 22,000 city stickers and we never did anything to cut back. That was a big part of it.
Correct. That was one of the reasons we felt there was no need.
About manpower reduction with
How's
city.
22?
Pardon? That was the biggest thing.
How's 22?
No, what I'm saying is we don't want to, I don't think an increase should happen though.
Yeah, you had proposed 21.
I want to know what Pete thinks.
I think it's fine to keep it flat.
Okay. So you're good with 20,000?
20,
No, no.
Well, I'd like to keep it what it
He's
is,
talking
but
about,
21,
Right, what it
845.
is.
I'm sorry.
right,
No, she's got 20,000 for clerk.
No, Peter was saying, if unless
Yeah,
I'm
Keith
wrong,
said-
he's saying to keep it flat, 21.
that would be
845.
my preference, correct?
right.
Yeah, okay, so 21,000.
No. Keeping it flat, 21,845.
45.
All right, that's okay. But that's not trustee Sweeney's resolution, so I just want to make
No,
sure.
we're Going
we're
off
on-
yours. That's, I think, what we were.
Yeah, no, okay, so we're okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that too. I'm sorry. I didn't mean, you're right. I did raise that, like
Susan, but what's your,
Claire, and you were answering to Claire and said, I literally just decreased everything.
yeah, no, you're right.
yeah, but
You're
okay,
right.
but what,
Trustee Sweeney, when you're right, you're right.
so is it, what do you think about the 21, 845? Susan, do you
fine.
want to stay with the 20,000? What do you want to do?
21, I mean, that's.
You want to
I'm
make it,
good.
you want to make it 21,000 and call it a day?
They're trying.
Susan,
Well, I think we should discuss the insurance first.
I mean,
I want to get,
I think,
Susan, I was
hang on,
wondering,
Hang
you
on,
know,
21, Pete, if trustee.
he wants, yeah,
Get-
21, 845.
$845 isn't going to sway me one way or the other. If it's an average that works for everybody, then so be it.
What is
So
it?
Susan,
21?
Susan's 21,000 work,
I mean,
21,
that's not the big issue, but 21,000, I think, versus 20 is not a big deal.
okay, so does that work? So we're done there?
I would rather.
Until we
20,000.
hear from Claire.
Yeah, that
Okay.
works for me.
Good, so 21,000's done. And the
Trustees.
highway
Wait,
commissioner's
let's do
done.
trustees, they're next.
Okay,
So Dave, I'm with you. I don't think it should be lowered, but
what do you think if we go with 5,500? Susan, would that work with you?
I mean, for trustees and the amount of work that goes into it, it's not, I think.
Or do you want to leave it at 59? We could leave it at 50, maybe make it 58. We got to drop it something, I think.
really? You've increased the
Well,
meeting.
Peter dropped 845, so, I mean, we should drop.
Well,
it.
no, that's true. I agree. And so did like every
So
other.
make it 55. I would say to make it 5,700 instead of 5,970. Would that work for you, Susan?
I mean, that's not,
All right, so we can go, if that works with Claire,
It works with me.
5,700, so we're done there. Then the assessor is at 23,000 now. Does that work with you, Susan? Because that would work with me if that works with you.
What number was that, Dave? I missed it.
23,000?
23.
so the average was 20,000.
Yeah, the average I think is 22,856.
Yeah,
they-
which is rounded up to 23.
23.
Yeah, I
That'll
think
work.
what I had originally is 20.
All right, so does that work with you?
Yeah, that works.
And Claire, does that work with you?
That works with
Okay.
me.
So we
And then
blow
I
through
was
that.
willing to go down 20,000 on highway commissioner.
Right. Now, jumping back to supervisor, did we come up with a number on that one?
Yeah, you said 30.
Can we do, does 30 work for you, Susan?
30 works.
And for Claire?
Works with me.
Because we got the salaries all done. And then the IMRF language, is that okay if we have the IMRF language?
And just so you know, I'm okay with it too. You didn't ask me, but
Oh,
I'm okay with it.
no,
too.
no, I've been watching you. I keep seeing your, I can tell by watching, but that's okay. Because
We are
you're
really
gesturing very well.
cooking, guys. I need to compliment all of you.
Then we just, can we keep in the, is it
Yeah,
okay if we
Let's
keep in
go to
the,
insurance, IMRF, we can't have language, towards the case, against the case.
no, I'd like language in there that says no IMRF.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so we put that in, no IMRF.
Yes,
That's-
no IMRF.
Yeah, the way it
All right,
rides.
all right, so we're done. So we're done there. now
Officials
comes-
shall not participate in the.
Right, right, right. Then,
Fund.
That's
right,
fine.
fine. Then what's that? Then, Laura, what did you want to do next? Insurance, okay. I think my position with the insurance, I think what Laura came up with is very good.
I would have to agree that it's not a bad thing to increase the contribution by the elected officials and allowing the participation.
All right. Has everybody spoken?
Wait, I have a question.
Trustee Jones.
I have a question. So just to be clear, on highway, we're now at salary of 30,000?
No, 50.
Okay, but I thought you said you were
Highway's
willing to
50.
reduce it.
gonna back
I
up.
did. My
Okay, Rich.
original was 76 or something.
Right. Right, it's a
Oh,
significant
okay,
reduction.
okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right, so
reduced
highway
it
is-
a lot.
Highway's 50,
Right.
okay.
Right.
And then
So
clerk,
I
what do
think
you want,
this
even?
is a true, each side.
So
you know,
may I, Laura, could I summarize just one more time?
Absolutely.
The medical and benefits language of Supervisor Morass, that's what we go with. As far as IMRF language, it's Susan Sweeney's, Trustee Sweeney's language. As far as the salaries, we have supervisor at 30,000, township clerk at 21,000, trustees each at 5,700, assessor at 23,000, highway commissioner 50,000. We have the road district treasurer at $1,000.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now,
And you have to put the $1,000 for the supervisor is paid to the road. That's what you just
That's
said.
that's when he
Road district
literally,
treasurer.
that's when he said.
Okay.
Now,
You're right.
I don't know, and I don't think I don't know what you want to do about this. I was the one who got us to contribute to pay half the dental, So we haven't addressed the dental.
Oh, we should include that.
Right. So I do think that needs to be included in mine. Let me look.
Well, I think we're gonna have to do a redraft of the resolution.
Yes, I'll get it to everybody before November. I mean, we have the tape. I'll get it to everybody, it'll be hand delivered.
And just to clarify, what's that one last edition we're talking
The
about?
last edition is right now, we are with MetLife. Now, it can change, you know, in the spring, that can change, but we pay, well, it depends if you're in network or on a network. So I think it's 70-30 in network, 60-40 out of network is my
Sounds right. Sounds right.
my recollection. So I do think we need to include something on the dental that we can go back to self-pay. I talked to Catherine at length, you know, and we can go back to the self-pay where we're self-insured, and it's just the, you know, the reason we did this was because you get a greater amount of care or whatever. I'm sorry. It went from 1,600 to 1,800. I was the one, I mean, total.
I
for
brought
the
it up, that we needed to address dental insurance.
You also noted though, Laura, that we save a lot of administrative time.
We do, right. So I think that we should keep the dental maybe as is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can spell it out what it is. And it is 70, my recollection is it's 70-30 in network and 60-40 out of network. That's my recollection. Up to the max, and I'll specify it, up to the max of 1,800. That's all that MetLife will do. I mean, that's what we voted on. That's what we did.
Okay, but the premiums are what?
70-40. I mean, I'm sorry,
What?
70-30. It depends on what you've elected. So I elected just me. I didn't elect anybody in my family. I can't tell you what any other elected official did.
What are your monthly premium costs?
My monthly
70-30.
premium costs, I believe, are 40, rounding up $40.
I would say just to leave it. I mean, we've accomplished so much, just to
I
leave it
agree.
just the way it is.
Yeah, but not to go back to that, because we had everything covered at 100%. So we didn't have premiums. We changed the dental.
Right.
We're
No,
all past all that, right?
Right, yeah,
That's what I'm
that's,
saying. We did make a change because I brought that up. We were covering
So
it.
I actually
Well, it was the administrative expense too that you brought up, Laura.
yes, and I have to tell you, I'm not the happiest with MetLife.
Right.
Next board may want to change that. They don't have to stay with MetLife. This is compensation right now. So they don't have to stay with MetLife, because I don't know if anybody else was unhappy, but a lot of people got a rude awakening that their dentist wasn't in the network. But I agree with Dave that for the sake of, again, the fact we've been doing so great, right, to keep it what we have. And I literally, you know, everybody can go on MetLife, you know, Catherine spelled it out, you know, everybody, I will change the resolution, don't worry.
So we're ready to-
Maureen will watch this, well, I think she's watching it, but it will, every single thing we've said will be spelled out.
Yeah, we can, are we ready to vote, do you think, Laura?
I do. Does everybody, Kurt seems to.
I have one last lawyerly thing here that I'm hoping won't be too much of a problem, but I just want to make sure that the board's aware. We don't generally recommend to put end dates on salaries in these salary ordinances, because if for some reason the next board fails to pass a resolution, that following board could arguably not have any compensation or not be entitled to any compensation. So we just generally say, set the effective date that you want it to go, which would be, May 17, 2021. The next board's obviously going to have the ability to change those salaries how they see fit. We generally just don't recommend putting an end date because you could end up inadvertently with a board not being entitled to compensation, arguably. So just something we want to point out.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
I would agree with that.
So Kurt, how does that, will you send the language to Doreen, please?
Yeah, it's really just saying effective as of May 17, 2021, this is the salary. And then the next board will have the ability to change that. It just takes out that through May 18th, 2025. It's a simple
So
change.
for example, had
Yeah, the
tonight
cutoff
been
date.
a tie,
Yeah,
like it would just revert. to-
exactly. Just eliminates the questionable scenario where the next board might not be entitled to any compensation whatsoever. That's all. Yeah.
Because that's different than we've always done it, right? Yeah.
No, actually,
End date.
we never did it like you did. Like if you look, I just specify for the 4 years. I don't specify each year, but I do specify for 4 years. So I talked to Toy. I understand what he's saying. Toy issued a memorandum of opinion that is exactly what Kurt is saying.
And I would be willing to agree with that. I think.
Again, it doesn't impact the next board's ability to change the salary how they see fit in any way. They certainly still have retained that right. So it doesn't impact the next board or tie the next board's hands in any way.
It's just like, let's say somebody dies the night of the meeting.
Kurt, I'm sorry. I don't know if I caught the very beginning of this. What you're saying is by taking off the end date, if the new board that came in wanted to change something, they'd have the ability to do that?
For the following board, but say 4 years from
Following
now,
board, like this very next board that's coming.
no, the next subsequent board. So say 4 years from now, the next board is unable to pass a salary resolution or somehow it ends in a tie or they can't do it. That next subsequent board arguably could not be entitled to any compensation because there's an end date in this resolution. So it says into May 18th, 2025. So those new trustees, those new officials come May 18th, 2025, if no new resolution is passed, could arguably not be entitled to anything. It'd be zero. So
Okay. Sorry.
Or they oops and blow the date, right, Kurt?
Yeah, exactly. And this is just to say, if somehow that happens, these numbers would still stay in effect for that second subsequent board.
Right.
That's all. Yeah.
That's good.
All right, I'm gonna call the vote. Everybody has spoken. Clerk Gialamas. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go out, even though I'm gonna go out for any further public participation. All right, hearing none. Clerk Gialamas, will you call the roll? Whoa.
I'll chime in. I want to say I've watched quite a few of these meetings. Congrats, guys. I mean, you're meeting together. You recognize it. I echo. It would have been nice to have some of this meeting of minds earlier on, but it was a rough topic. It got punted a few meetings. I'm glad to see you came to a resolution, and don't want to say I'm proud of you guys, but it kind of comes out.
Thanks, Earl. Thanks, Earl.
Thank you, Earl.
Thanks,
All right.
Earl.
I appreciate
I was just gonna say, like, are we gonna just assume that the vote is on the
changes.
compromise that, okay.
So here's like the motion as I'm gonna
And I'll second.
Yeah, you can take just
wait,
say like,
Kurt,
accept
do I
the-
have to withdraw the other one, or
I would say if everybody is okay with the friendly amendment that's been agreed upon and everybody's clear what we're voting on, then I don't think there's a need to withdraw and re-motion everything.
Okay, all right. So motion with the friendly amendments. Dave second. Clerk Gialamas, can you call the roll?
Gladly. Supervisor Maraska.
Yeah.
Trustee Jones,
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie,
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Carabota,
Yes.
and Trustee Sweeney.
No, and I do want to attach my comments that I had read from to be included in the minutes, so.
So do we get to go home now yet or not yet?
Oh, motion to adjourn. Wait,
Second.
motion passed.
Motion to adjourn.
And motion to,
Second.
Kim said a motion to adjourn. I second.
All in
Clerk
favor?
Yolonis.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Thank you,
Darren
Eric.
will get
Richard
that
Lyon,
to
the
you
township
by-
president there, Kurt. Thank you,
Aye.
Richard. Thank you, all the staff.